CURES, sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness. Are you a type A achiever? Guilty, but maybe feeling a little burned out by all there is to do, then this is for you. We're all feeling probably a little burned out, so really any of you out there can benefit. I am speaking with Dr. Mary Anderson. She is a licensed clinical psychologist and the author of a great new book. It is the Happy High Achiever, 8 Essentials to Overcome Anxiety, Manage Stress, and energize yourself for success without losing your edge. I am so happy to have you and Dr. Mary Anderson coming in from Boston.
Yes, I just came in last night. Thank you so much, Kara, for having me here. I'm so excited to be with you all here today.
Yeah, what I love about this is there's a lot of science in here. You are still a practicing psychologist seeing patients.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist for well over a decade now. So I really wanted to provide science-based, actionable skills and strategies to help ambitious people reduce their stress and anxiety and enjoy both happiness and high achievement.
Yeah, because I think for those of us who work in competitive industries like media, or maybe you're just a busy mom and there's this pressure, people want to do well, and there's so much. So by just being a high achiever, you might be overdoing it.
Yes, the issue becomes that people want to do everything. So I often get asked, is ambition bad? No, ambition and drive are great. That's not the issue. It's really when people have this relentless pace where they're trying to do everything all the time. And they also often have chronic negative self-talk. So they're saying, I should be further ahead. I should be able to do everything. And that's really when high achievers start really struggling with high anxiety, chronic stress, and worry.
And then that's really going to affect performance because nearly 35% of entrepreneurs are experiencing burnout because many of us are not practicing self-care. And that may seem like a woo-woo term on Instagram or whatever. You hear self-care is not selfish. I truly believe that. However, this is self-care with a little more science behind it.
Yes.
What do you mean by self-care is essential for achievement?
So important, Kara. Thank you so much. I think there's really a self-care myth out there that it means, 2-hour-long bubble baths and week-long meditation retreats, and that's great if people have time for that. But busy, high achievers with jam-packed schedules, we just don't have time for that. So what I mean by self-care is just taking good care of yourself on a regular basis so that you'll feel and be your best. And to help high achievers remember what self-care they need to prioritize, I came up with a self-care acronym, SELF.
It's
self.
Yeah, so I like it. That can we remember.
Yes.
So S is for?
S is for sleep. And so this is the 4 science-based self-care fundamentals that when you prioritize that as a high achiever, you're really going to help yourself perform your best short-term and long-term. So S is for sleep. And we have to aim for at least 7 hours of sleep per night as adults. And I think we all know what it feels like when we haven't had good sleep, right? It's just harder to function. And that's what research shows, actually, is that chronic lack of sleep actually can negatively impact things like memory, attention, concentration, decision-making. But conversely, good sleep, so again, really prioritizing getting that 7 hours a night, most nights, of sleep, then you're gonna have enhanced problem-solving abilities, attention, memory, concentration. So it's so important for that S of sleep.
I want to just weigh in on that, and then we'll go to E, but I was just listening to an interview with Jeff Bezos, who obviously founded Amazon, and he said when he has to do a high IQ meeting, he likes to have it at 10 a.m., so it's earlier in the day, and he prioritizes 8 hours of sleep because he said he needs to be able to make high-level decisions.
Yes.
So, this isn't, even the most successful people, I think Jeff Bezos is now the richest person on the planet, are realizing that sleep really matters. Our brain just doesn't work as well.
Absolutely. So when we get really strategic and we optimize certain self-care fundamentals like sleep, which again is such an essential, that's why Jeff, is doing that, and so many high achievers really understand the importance of sleep now, they are just going to function better in the short term and long term.
Okay, so what's E for?
Okay, E is exercise. And I think we all know the importance of physical activity. Why I really encourage high achievers to prioritize carving out some time for exercise is that it's one of the most efficient ways to decrease cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So it's a really efficient, effective way of lowering our stress, which again is going to help us function at our best. And here's where I get really strategic with my high achievers and helping them understand we're just talking about things like walking and even just fitting in 10-minute walks here and there.
Because you're thinking, exercise, I gotta go to a HIIT class, I gotta do this, I gotta get up an hour earlier, and she just said I needed to sleep. You're just talking about even a brisk walk.
Yes, so walking I think can be vastly underestimated in terms of its really low risk of injury. It's so great for stress management. And high achievers, we like to go big, right? And so we're thinking I need to go every day to the gym and do, high intensity training. But really, that's not usually sustainable or healthy to be trying to do intense workouts every single day. So for stress management,
that can raise your cortisol.
Exactly. So that's why sometimes high achievers are surprised by that. And I'll say, actually, walking is fantastic, has so many benefits, stress management, enhanced creativity. There's some great benefits from walking, and it really does count. All the time, high achievers that I work with, successful business professionals, doctors, lawyers, grad students, they'll say, Dr. A, 10 minutes walking doesn't matter. And I'm like, it counts. It counts.
Well, there was a new study on CNN we just reported on the news, and it talked about 11 minutes of a power walk and how that can lengthen your life. But I've seen brain scans where it shows this is a brain who hasn't walked, this is a brain who hasn't, all of it's lit up. So if you're feeling like I'm not feeling it today, rather than another cup of coffee, a brisk walk would actually really help us.
Absolutely. And if you can take that brisk walk outside, that's even more amazing because you're getting the benefits of nature as well, which we know calms the nervous system. So being out in green spaces or blue spaces. But
in other countries, they prescribe green time. I've read that in Japan, they'll say a prescription is you need this amount of time outside every day.
It's really beneficial for our nervous system to be in nature. But if you can't get outside, no worries. Even just walking inside on a treadmill has been shown to be really beneficial as well.
Yeah, I went upstairs, in between shows, and I did a little Instagram, and people were commenting, but I said, a 5-minute brisk walk between shows. But I know it's only 5 minutes, but 5 minutes is I was winded at the end of it, and I did, my head felt clear. So we have to remind ourselves to do that. So exercise, we've got sleep and exercise. I know these are basics. However, they're low-hanging fruit, but a lot of us aren't doing it. So
and great bang for your buck, too. It's really an ROI. When you're a really high-achieving, busy individual, we need to prioritize where we put or invest our time and energy, right? So these are the ones that are going to give you best ROI for your time and energy investment.
Okay, L?
Okay, L is look forward. So L is look forward, and this one sometimes surprises people why it's so important for self-care. We need at least one pleasant activity per week to look forward to.
One a week.
At least one. You can always do more.
Okay.
That's kind of a secret goal setting tip too, is just say at least, because you can always do more. But often, Kara, when patients come in to see me and I'll say, how many pleasant activities or how many fun things do you plan into your week? What is the average answer that patients usually say?
None?
0. Exactly. Okay. You got it.
And it doesn't have to be something amazing. It could be you're looking forward to a walk with your partner on a Sunday morning, or I look forward to slow mornings like that.
Absolutely.
Like nobody's bothering me and I don't have to put on makeup. But it doesn't have to be a big thing.
Absolutely. That's actually the most important, is that we keep it doable. I often say keep self-care doable so we keep doing it. So it's really important that we schedule in and then remind ourselves about doable, pleasant activities like meeting up with a friend on a Saturday, or booking a massage for a Wednesday, or even just, I'm going to get my favorite takeout on Friday after a long work week.
A lot of families will have pizza night on Fridays, and it seems like a simple thing. You don't have to cook, your kids like pizza, but just the act of looking forward to a routine could be one small step. I like to think of Wednesday reset day, so maybe that's a day you don't cook and you could just do something easy, or Wednesday is for walking. But so little things to remind us so we don't get to the end of the week and say, I didn't do that again.
Yes, and it gives you a powerful mood boost, just reminding ourselves that we have something to look forward to. Like when we have a vacation planned. So we can, have a vacation plan for 2 weeks from now. But reminding ourselves about that vacation is enough to give us a mood boost. We're not in Hawaii yet, but we're thinking about it. It gives us a mood boost. Same thing, but just keeping it much more doable, because we can't be going on vacation every week.
Okay, so finally we get to F, and F is for fuel.
F is for fuel, and we know how important it is to fuel our mind and body with good nutrition and hydration. So making sure we're drinking a lot of water, and then in terms of nutrition, really prioritizing lean protein, veggies, especially green veggies, fruits, and keeping it convenient. That's the thing too, when I'm working with high achievers, busy schedules, and so they're just not always building in healthy, convenient snacks. So we just problem solve and keep it really easy. Bring mixed nuts with you, bring a piece of fruit with you, keep it doable. If it has to be a protein shake or a protein bar, that's okay. So fuel is hydration, nutrition, and also it's fueling our mind with quiet. Right? Think about how much of our day we're scrolling, we're like bombarded with information and barraged with problems to solve. It's so important that we build in even just a moment or two of quiet to rest and recharge. And that could be deep breathing, meditation, I use the Calm app, journaling, whatever works for someone to give themselves some quiet.
Yeah, no, I really find that one of the things I've started doing to try, it's hard for me to find quiet in my life because I have a busy job and then I get home and I have kids and all that. And hey, I love my family, I love all that, but like I yearn for silence. So I have started finding that if I go in the car and instead of making all my phone calls, sometimes you have to, but like just a silent car ride. Yeah. And I actually think that's helpful. Like sometimes, I mean, we think radio, we think this, we think that, you know, I used to be like, I gotta listen to the news, I can do this, I'll get this cable charge removed, whatever. But like, if you can't get it, even just a few minutes in the car, turn everything off and drive in the car in silence. Would that help?
I love that.
Okay.
I love that because I think as high achievers, we're often really driven to constantly multitask, right? You're like, I'm driving, but I'm going to be, you know, dealing with a cable bill and listening to news to learn more. And sometimes it's so helpful. Just give your brain a break, and that rest will recharge you and actually help you be more sustainably energized to move yourself forward. That's huge. I love that.
So let's talk about the science behind that, because high achievers or busy people, whatever you're identifying as, often think they feel guilty for rest. But rest is actually productive. At least that's what I tell myself.
Absolutely.
And so why scientifically is rest productive? Why does our brain even accomplish more later on?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So often we overwhelm ourselves with thinking we have so much to do, we're constantly on the go. It's actually going to be harder for our brains to function optimally if we, especially, you know, when we get to a kind of a worked up state of being really overwhelmed, our fight or flight goes off. So that's that kind of more basic part of our brain, limbic system, fight or flight. So we really will feel, I sometimes even call it the whoosh of the adrenaline and cortisol, that stress hormone.
Which can be a good feeling, and I think busy high achievers know that feeling a lot. We kind of live on it.
Yes, the issue can be so absolutely, we want some stress to keep us motivated and going forward, and to look at it as being excited. That will be motivating. But you know those moments when people are like, or what I'll hear from patients, oh my gosh, Dr. A, I have so many things to do. I don't even know how I'm going to get started. And they just get so overwhelmed.
Yes.
That's the tipping point. That's what we want to watch out for, is when we're feeling really overwhelmed. They'll come in saying, I'm so stressed out, Dr. A, I should be able to handle all of this. And so then they're overwhelmed, and their prefrontal cortex, their frontal lobe, where all that higher executive functioning, like decision making, problem solving, is really going to happen. That's going to be harder to access because they really are so in their limbic system, like the amygdala is a fear structure in your brain. So there's a lot of neuropsychology behind this.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, if you're, if we've talked about this on shows about parents, and if you have a child with ADHD, or maybe you've realized you have ADHD too. So the prefrontal cortex is that part. It's like the manager. It's the conductor of the orchestra.
Yes.
So what you're saying is, when we're really stressed, we don't really have access to that part of our brain. That's the part that we need.
Exactly. It's going to be harder to access that higher level functioning. Kind of like Jeff Bezos was saying that you mentioned, that's why he's getting really good sleep. That's why he's having
his high IQ meeting early.
Yeah, so that he's going to be able to really optimize that prefrontal cortex, that frontal lobe functioning in the morning. That's why it's so important to stay aware of how we're really prioritizing our self-care, to make sure that we're managing our stress levels so that we're not just like marinating in cortisol, the stress hormone.
Right, which, just a little extra, ladies. The cortisol also leads to extra weight and belly fat and all these things that women, especially in midlife, are complaining about. Too much high cortisol also wreaks havoc on your metabolism, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
de-stressing is good for lots of things.
It's so good for so many things. I think what you point to is there's got to be a buy-in, though, because I think sometimes we
need a why.
Yeah, exactly, because we believe
Actually, this
we
is
have
good
to-
for me. Rest is productive, and that's why
Yes.
you're saying it's beyond the bubble bath.
Yes, and it's so important what we believe, because what we know is that thoughts, feelings, and behaviors all directly impact each other.
Yes.
So the type of therapy I use is cognitive behavioral therapy, empirically supported for the treatment of anxiety and depression. And that's really one of the fundamental concepts, is that thoughts, feelings, and behaviors all directly impact each other.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking to yourself, self-care is not important, I shouldn't need that, it's a waste of time, are you going to be motivated to rest or to go for that walk or to take that time in nature? No, right? So what we think, what we tell ourselves about self-care becomes really important. So
Yes.
just like you're saying, really recognizing and reminding ourselves there are multiple benefits from self-care,
Yeah.
so many ways.
Okay, it's the
Yes.
same reason why, maybe you like to eat the chocolate sundae more, but you eat the broccoli because you're like, it's good for me. So if you understand that this is good for you, that these steps, this self-acronym, and you
Yes.
have it in here, there's, I love the expression you have in here. It's a lot of science. If you haven't had a chance to go to a psychologist, or maybe you have, but you just, this is going to help people on their own. Where are you shining your flashlight? So
Yes.
where are we putting our focus really matters.
Absolutely. So I use this metaphor of a flashlight. And what it means is just where are you concentrating your attention? Where are you shining your flashlight? Just like in a room, if you shine your flashlight to the right, you'll see the right. Doesn't mean the left goes away. It's still there. You're just not going to focus on it much. So same thing with our thoughts. What we think about, where we shine that flashlight becomes so important with how we feel and then behaviorally what we do. So if people are doing this all or nothing thinking, I talk a lot about in the Happy High Achiever, whereas high achievers, sometimes people think, again, it has to be big or it doesn't count. They'll say, but Dr. A, I need to be doing high intensity. I need to be training for a marathon or it doesn't count. That's not going to be helpful in terms of really motivating them for sustainable self-care.
Okay, and sustainable will be something you could do every day. You can always add on to it, but say it's sustainable.
Yes.
You can do it every day, even on a bad day, because you're going to feel good. You get like almost a little jolt when you've completed this one thing you asked yourself to do, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why we really got to keep it doable. Keep
Okay.
it really, really doable. So
What
that
would be an
way-
example of a doable thing to add that could reduce our stress and anxiety?
Taking a 10-minute walk. And if 10 minutes isn't doable, take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But literally just physical movement every day, it's one of the best ways to prevent and heal burnout. We got to be moving our bodies. We sit so much nowadays. It's so important to just get up and get some movement. So even just saying, okay, I'm going to get my 5 minutes in right now. So I see patients for 55-minute sessions. And what I'll do, those 5 minutes, just like you did a 5-minute little walk, that's what I do in between.
You're like, okay, 5
patients.
minutes. We're going to talk while we walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll do the 55 minutes, then I'll do my 5-minute kind of walk in between the next session, and those add up though, right? Because
Yeah.
if I'm doing 5 minutes 4 times, I just did 20 minutes extra of walking that day.
Oh,
built
right.
into the day.
Oh, you do it. I was thinking you
I
make
do.
your clients
Oh, no.
walk
Oh,
while
that
they're
would be-
doing therapy. I'm like, that's like a twofer. No.
that would be great. That's
Don't tell me you don't have time. You're in my chair. Let's get up and move.
I like that, Kara. I'll start adding that. But for myself, I'll build in 20 minutes extra of walking just by doing those little 4 bursts of 5 minutes. So keep it doable, even if that's, okay, I'm going to make sure that I drink a bottle of water today because, I haven't been really prioritizing hydration as much.
Yeah.
So it's really
And
keep it very
hydration,
doable.
it sounds simple, but we've done another show where I think the statistic was 5% of dehydration. No, I'm sorry, 1% dehydration was 5% cognitive decline. So just being slightly dehydrated is going to affect our brain as well and create more stress.
Absolutely. That's why I'm such a big champion of drinking water. And again, it seems simple, right? But these are these little value adds that really have great bang for their buck. So just making sure, like I always have a reusable water bottle with me. I make sure that I do at least one, but try for at least 2 a day of those. So really make this doable and keep it fun. If you want your reusable water bottle to be like a fun color that's your favorite, do that. Make this as convenient, as enjoyable as possible. And that's what's going to keep us motivated to keep implementing this regular self-care.
Okay, we're going to take one moment to hear from our sponsor and then come back about what we need to do when we have those negative thoughts. But take a listen.
Struggling with gambling? Wheeler Health's Better Choice program offers personalized support and treatment to help you regain control. Visit WheelerHealth.org to learn more and take the first step towards recovery today.
All right, I'm back here with Dr. Mary Anderson. She's got her new book. Praise is for the happy achiever on the back here, but these are all the 8 essentials for anxiety, managing stress, and we have energizing yourself for success without losing your edge. So if you consider yourself someone who's a high achiever or busy, or I like to say sometimes that I'm a recovering perfectionist, then, we have to learn how to regulate. And sometimes you're going to have this bad thought about something that happened, right? And that can be really stressful. What you want people to understand is, like, thought comes first, then the emotion, right? Like, so our thought is driving the emotion?
It can really depend. Sometimes they all directly impact each other.
Okay.
So where I try to empower people is often they'll come in and they don't know what their thought is, but they know how they're feeling, right?
Yes.
Because rarely do we walk around thinking, what am I telling myself right now? Even as psychologists.
Yeah, okay.
We don't always do that, but we usually know how we feel, right? So what I encourage my patients to do, and everyone out there, when you're feeling high anxiety, when you're feeling panicked, overwhelmed, that's when you want to ask yourself, what am I telling myself right now? Where am I shining my flashlight? What thought am I really focusing on? Because that thought is likely contributing to how you're feeling.
Okay, and that's when you say we need to poke holes in distorted thoughts.
Yes.
So if we're sitting there thinking, I really messed up, that was horrible, why did I say that? You give an example of someone saying something in a meeting and they're kind of ruminating like, I can't believe I said that, and now I bet you my boss thinks I'm an idiot or this and that. Sometimes we have these runaway thoughts that just aren't true.
Absolutely, Kara. I think because our brain is hardwired with a negativity bias, I call it we just go right down the rabbit hole. So we say something in a meeting, it's a slip up, it's a fumble, or some kind of, flaw that we just showed, and we can really go to a place in our mind where we call jumping to conclusions. So we'll start thinking, well, now I'm not going to get the promotion, or we'll do kind of this negative mind reading where we'll say, well, now my boss thinks, I'm incompetent. And so what I have people do is to identify what is the thought that's making you feel the most anxious. That's step 1. What am I telling myself? Step 2 is, how is my thought not necessarily true? So when we're saying to ourselves, well, now my boss thinks I'm incompetent, then we can poke holes and say, well, other people have made mistakes, or misspoken in a meeting, and they didn't get fired. I don't think any less of them. My boss just told me the other day that he thought I was doing well, right? So
we look for evidence to ask yourself, is it really true? And this is also important because this is all part of that self-talk, right?
Yes.
So the way we talk to ourselves is driving that burnout, that stress, that overwhelm. If it's like, go faster, go harder, keep going, you messed up, you got to work harder now. Whatever, just even stopping to listen, like, what kind of thought is or person, in your head driving you?
Absolutely. So the stories that we're telling ourselves, those thoughts that we're focusing on that aren't helping us, we want to poke holes in those, just like you said, with finding evidence that they're not necessarily true. And then the third and final step to help create a more balanced thought is practicing what I call new and improved self-talk, which is taking that evidence and creating a thought that's going to be more helpful, that's going to move us forward. Because thinking, well, I messed up, now my boss thinks I'm incompetent, is that a helpful thought that's going to move us forward? No. And it's not even necessarily true. We're just thinking that because probably in that moment we're having anxiety. And so what we want to do is come up with a balanced thought, which I use this little equation. First, it's just kind of acknowledging the reality of the situation. So that could be, wow, I feel badly that I misspoke in a meeting, or I feel badly I said something, that wasn't right on point. But, so then we add like a but I can't know what my boss is thinking unless he tells me. Or, I wish I hadn't said that, but other people have misspoken in a meeting and it's not like they lost their job. So we have to just balance it out. So it's really creating and practicing balanced thinking that's gonna really be able to move us forward so we can stay energized and be our best.
Okay, so let's talk about overwhelm.
Yeah.
That is a horrible feeling, and I always feel bad because I certainly know what that feeling can be when everything's hitting at once. I feel bad for our kids. I've got 2 teens, and sometimes I can see, and they'll be like, I'm so overwhelmed, I have so much to do, and they are. They're coming home from sports, and they have more homework and more this, and a therapist once told me, which I thought was helpful, but I'm curious your take on it, was that we really can't be overwhelmed unless we're thinking of multiple things at one time. And that, so the cure to overwhelm is a kind of, can we just focus on one thing? Can we be in the present moment? But I'm curious, that chronic feeling of overwhelm that so many high achievers or busy people have, what do we do when we're feeling so overwhelmed and our prefrontal cortex isn't working? So how do we stop the overwhelm?
Oh, great question. I've had so many patients come in and ask me, like, Dr. A, what do I do? Like, what do I do right now? I'm just feeling so stressed out. I'm feeling so overwhelmed. How am I going to get through the rest of the workday with this, like, endless to-do list? So my very first thing that I help people do is just take 3 deep breaths. And that's really to help calm that nervous system, because they'll come in and they're in fight or flight. I can tell. They're just like almost sometimes shaking with feeling so overwhelmed. So again, before we can even use the prefrontal cortex, we got to calm that fight or flight. And so what we know is just by taking 3 deep breaths, right? So it's, I'll teach it where, like, I teach, put one hand on your tummy, one hand on your chest. And what we know is we go in the nose, a nice deep slow breath, and our hand on our tummy will go out, and then long extended exhale out the mouth, and that's going to help calm the nervous system.
3 of them.
Just 3 deep breaths, and really making sure we extend that exhale. So it can be like in the nose for a count of 4, and then out the mouth slow for like a 6 to 8 count.
And I did that with you because I wanted to see, I can feel it.
You feel
only
it?
2.
Isn't it
But if you're
nice?
watching, I feel like you could almost feel that at home. Like we are sitting here doing a TV show, but we just brought it down an octave.
Isn't it awesome? I love teaching it, honestly, Kara, because I can just feel like the boost of calm. It just relieves the tension. It just really helps calm the body and nervous system. It's awesome.
So you are built in with a calm remote control. Like it's your breath. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to forget it. Like it's there. So step 1.
Step 1
is breathe.
Is breathe. And it really does, because that's what, again, is going to calm our nervous system. So then we can get back that executive functioning. So step 2, I often encourage people, write a list, right? Because we're in that moment of overwhelm. We're often feeling like a lack of control, right? We're feeling out of control. It's hard to focus. We're not feeling calm. But a list, when we write a list, it helps kind of boost our sense of control, and it constructively channels our energy onto a concrete, helpful activity. So I have people write out, okay, this is what I actually have to do, and then prioritize, what do I need to do first? And then what, and then what? And just having a strategic plan can really boost people's sense of calm and confidence. And then to speak to what you had mentioned, which is, yes, absolutely, one thing at a time. Our brains are hardwired for singular focus. So when we're trying to toggle between multiple tasks and do that multitasking thing, all right, it's not going to be helpful. That really is a main or a major contributor to overwhelm. So I encourage people, once you have your list, just focus on one thing at a time. Everything feels a little better, a little easier when we know just one thing at a time.
Yeah.
It's
All right,
huge.
so you can achieve without the burnout. The book is called The Happy Achiever.
The Happy High Achiever.
The Happy High Achiever, I should say. And Dr. Mary Anderson, you can find her on social. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me here today. This was awesome.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a great day and be well. Don't forget to breathe.
CURES is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.